So here to discuss is CBS News legal contributor Rebecca Roiphe. Rebecca, thanks for joining us. This is the first time that we've seen Judge Jackson actually defend herself to Republican lawmakers. How do you think she's doing so far?
I think she's doing great. She's remained calm the entire time, mostly answering questions, doing her best to refocus the questioning on her qualifications to be a Supreme Court justice and away from sort of hot button political questions that are being used really as a teaser for the election rather than pertaining to her particular abilities as a Supreme Court justice. So, I think she's done a good job. The questioning has been hard, but, this is the way these confirmation hearings have been going these past few decades.
So the criticism focuses on sort of two areas, crime and punishment, and then her defense of Guantanamo detainees. I want to ask you about how they approached her record on crime and how you think she responded.
So, there are a couple of things here. The first is she does have a past as a federal defender, a public federal defender, and as such, she has been a criminal defense attorney. So the effort is to link her with her clients, to in some way suggest that she's sympathetic with criminals because she served in her role. And I think she's done a good job of deflecting that criticism. Representing criminal defendants does not necessarily mean that one is, in fact, it doesn't mean at all that one is sympathetic with those criminals, what they have done. Instead, it is, as she has said over and over again, an important role in American government and in the American constitutional order, because it is one of the key ways that we ensure that the government itself is abiding by the laws, and it's a way of protecting the civil liberties of the innocent. So it's a hard concept, I think, to get, and I think that the Republicans have done a pretty good job of suggesting that, the combination between her past practice and some of her judicial opinions mean that she is in some way aligned with the far left and, the defund the police movement. And, I think if you dig down, those are pretty unfair allegations when it comes to Judge Jackson, and it remains to be seen. I don't think it will be particularly convincing in terms of the public's sense of her qualifications for this job, but it is a preview of how the Republican Party is trying to frame the upcoming elections.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point there, that a reminder that, these senators are not necessarily talking to her, they're talking to their constituents, right? They're thinking about, their next run for office, and that's part of the reason why we see this repeated line of questioning, even though she's, responding to the same questions over and over again, which brings me to something else that she was asked about by Lindsey Graham, her defense of detainees at Guantanamo Bay. I want to play a little of the exchange there.
Do you support the idea, did you support then the idea that indefinite detention of an enemy combatant is unlawful?
Respectfully, Senator, when you are an attorney and you have clients who come to you, whether they pay or not, you represent their positions before the court.
So really quickly, what did we learn about this, and why is it significant?
So, one of the things is that it's a little bit complicated because, she has served in the past as a federal public defender where you have no choice of client. You're assigned your client, and it's a criminal case in which you have an obligation to represent that client zealously and do everything to poke holes in the government's case. The case that Senator Graham was discussing was a case in which she represented in private practice a number of clients, including the Cato Institute, in briefs to the Supreme Court. And so I think his line of questioning is a little bit more fair. Why did you choose to represent those clients? And are your views aligned with those clients? Because in that case, there was a choice, right? I mean, you obviously, once you're representing a client, you have to do so as diligently as possible. But why did she choose to do that? I think that's fair. But I think her answer is also fair, which is, look, we live in the legal system. And in this legal system, every single client deserves a representation. representation and a good representation, and especially in these sorts of cases where we're challenging the government. And she refused to engage with the underlying question of, whether she, the words in that brief are her own or were her clients. She said, I was acting as a lawyer, so I was representing those clients in their position before the Supreme Court. And there were some strong words in those briefs, as Senator Graham suggested, saying that the government was essentially engaged in war crimes. Was she actually alleging that former President Bush and Donald Rumsfeld were war criminals? And she backed off from that. And I think that's, that exchange, I think, was a little bit more legitimate than some of the other ones.
All right, Rebecca Roiphe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's Supreme Court nomination continue today in Washington. Our coverage begins this morning at 9 Eastern, and you can stream the hearing uninterrupted on CBSNews.com/hearing.